right, if you want to grab any drinks, stand up, stretch anytime. There's drinks at the back. Feel free. I will not be offended. So my name is John Bartus. Let me go back to the beginning here. I am currently at the University of Minnesota. I live here in Rochester. All the classes I teach and I take, I'm a PhD student as well in learning technologies. And I also teach. I'm a teaching specialist in learning technologies. But all the classes that I teach and take are online right now, so I just live in Rochester and teach through my computer, which I know is everybody's favorite way to teach. No, my favorite way to teach is a combination of lots of things. So if it has to be online, I still prefer to do a kind of hybrid mode where we get to see everybody face to face, meet each other and say, hey, I'm John Bartus. And then, go back online and have our discussions and readings and things like that, but we still have this personal connection. And let me tell you why. So first, because I'm at the university, I used to teach. I taught computer science in the district for almost 10 years in Rochester. I taught math at Willow Creek for 2 years before that. And before that, I was in industry. So can somebody tell me what critical thinking is? It's one of those things. We all know what it is, right? Yeah, we should all kids should learn critical thinking. What is critical thinking? That's what I thought. Close analysis. Something analysis, what was that? Close analysis. Deep analysis. Yeah? Problem solving. Interesting.
Gathering facts, making judgment.
Gathering facts, making judgment. Yeah.
Steps to come up to a solution, like building blocks that involve small thoughts instead of just big thoughts.
Interesting. Yeah, so building up bigger thoughts, bigger ideas from smaller steps and smaller thoughts, sort of logically building up things. So I don't have an answer for that because it's one of those things that everybody says they know what it is, but it's something that is really hard to define. And that kind of brings me to my next point, which is critical pedagogy. So don't worry, I'm not here to talk about critical race theory. I'm here to talk about critical pedagogy. Right? And I want you to think about it as, okay, we just started talking about critical thinking, right? And we all know what pedagogy is, right? It's the way you teach, the how you teach, the tools you use to teach, all the things that go into teaching, what it is teaching, right? So if that's critical thinking, what's critical pedagogy? Pardon me? Hattie's analysis? Instructional strategies? I haven't, but it's good.
Well, it is good, and has anybody seen it? Because I don't feel like I'm an expert. Hattie is the author, and he's done a statistical analysis of what strategies work and which don't, and which have the highest statistical chance of improving student outcomes.
Oh, wow, cool. I will definitely check it out. Anyone care to take a stab? Relate what we just heard? We're all friends here. It's cool, safe space. I'm only going to point and laugh at Rich over there, so it's okay. It's okay. I'm not going to do that to anyone else. STEM? Why is that? Yeah, so that would be like STEM leads to critical thinking, and the critical pedagogy part is like helping them to think that way through STEM. Yeah. Yeah, so it's actually, you know, a field of study, right? Critical pedagogy. And there's several different aspects to it, right? So critical means a lot of different things. Critical means mission critical, essential, right? Things that are really important. Critical, like literary criticism, when you critique something. Doesn't mean you're saying it's bad, right? You're critiquing it. You're trying to think deeply about it, like we just said. Interpreting it. Reflecting on it. Right? Having nuanced thinking. Things aren't black and white. The way to teach this is this way. All other ways are bad. Right? I know you guys are going to be shocked here because I'm coming from, you know, education department, but I'm not going to give you the next greatest thing you have to try in your classroom and tell you that it's going to work for everyone. Right? I'm going to do that to your administrators and they'll force you to do it. So that's cool. But critical as in criticizing institutional, corporate, societal impediments to learning. That's kind of a big thing, right? And critical pedagogy to me means all of these things, right? It's a way that you approach teaching that challenges all these things, right? Challenges you, challenges your students, right? Makes you teach critically so that they can think critically. And the reason that I bring that up in a thing about apps is one of the big parts of this is being confident enough to try things that are totally off the board, right? And then criticize them. Criticize yourself, right? Education is very conservative. And I don't mean that in a Republican, Democrat way. I mean conservative, like don't do anything too far from where we are right now, right? Let's make slow changes. And there's a lot of good reasons for that. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, right? I'm just saying it as a fact. Education moves slowly. That's fine. But that doesn't mean we can't think deeply about it and try new things and then think deeply about those. See how we can push the boundaries that are limiting learning, right? What are some of those conservative boundaries? Again, not political. I just mean think the way we've always done it, conservative. How can we break through that a little bit? Yes?
I would say also that there's got to be some measurement, you know, for all of that.
Yes.
That limits us in terms of we're trying to give the kids.
Yes. Measurement and assessment is one of my other hats. I could talk about that for a long time, but yes, 100%, 100%. All right, so I just wanted to kind of set the stage there, and I want to talk about connectivism. Now, here's one of these things where I'm, you know, up here, not something that, you know, a lot of people think about on a daily basis, but, you know, my sort of place in the university, as it were, people would call me a connectivist, right? And what that means is really, I believe, whoops, wrong one first. There we go. That connection is learning, and learning is connections. And this comes from a long line of researchers. Probably you guys have heard of it if you've ever taken, you know, education courses at master's levels in terms of like, you know, Love and Wenger and all these people about societal learning and learning communities and things. But what it comes down to for me is just this phrase: connection is learning and learning is connection, right? You have to. Nobody learns in a vacuum, right? Think about your favorite class right now that you've ever taken. Primary school, middle school, high school, college, right? So you probably remember just sitting there quietly reading a book for the entire year. That was your class, right? And memorizing it? No, right? Your favorite class, not just most classes, your favorite class, right? You really liked some other people in your class. I guarantee it, right? Peers, maybe your teacher, right? You had connection there, right? Whatever you were learning connected to your prior knowledge, your prior learning. Somehow it made sense to you. How did it make sense to you? Because it related to something that already made sense to you. We don't learn in a void. We learn based on what we already know and extend it, right? The zone of proximal development. It made sense to your culture and your knowing and doing, right? There's been a lot of research on, different cultures, different ways of knowing and doing and learning, and I'm not gonna, that's another area I'd love to talk about. But in your favorite class, you felt like you belonged. That's a connection. That's all connections, right? Maybe it was even larger community, right? So these two bottom things are things that are really, we're trying to do a lot more of, or at least it seemed like when I was, teaching in high school, we're looking beyond the walls of the school, right? How do we connect what we're learning outside the walls of the school? That's another connection, right? I'm going to send you a link to these slides. I'm going to come back to that guy. So, now I'm starting to get into the technology side. You have all heard of MOOCs, I guarantee it. You might not have heard that word before, but it's a class of education that's going to change the world. It's going to be free for everyone, right? It's going to be taught at Harvard. You're going to get a Harvard degree for free. Everyone's going to do it. They're going to have to close all the other universities, right? Right? Didn't that happen? That didn't happen? Right? I want you to think about these questions. I'm going to give you like 30 seconds. What makes Minecraft and Scratch so successful? I have a 16-year-old daughter who's been playing Minecraft for like 12 years, and her friends still love it. How many games do 4-year-olds and 16-year-olds play together? And want to, not because you're like, it's family game night, sit down and enjoy it, right? What makes them so successful? And I'm not saying edX and Udacity and all those aren't great, right? They are great for certain people, right? But of the 100,000 people that signed up for CS50 and edX, I think it was about 1,500 finished the course and got their certificate. 30 seconds. All right, that's about 30 seconds. Anybody have any ideas?
They appeal to the disease and the decline of our society.
Yes, that is. All right. We're done. Thank you very much. I'll have links at the end. I don't think most people were sleeping during the first half. I'm going to give you a hint. It has something to do with what I was just talking about. Yes?
The kids seem engaged because it is something new that we don't do.
Mm-hmm.
And they get to use their creativity and their
Creativity,
all that
extracurricular,
background knowledge. I'm teaching kindergarten.
background knowledge. Yep.
And they just love being able to do whatever they want to do.
Mm.
They can take it where they want to take it. Minecraft specifically, I don't know much about Scratch.
Yeah. No, I know. I'm with you there. My wife teaches early childhood in Montessori at St. Kate's. If you guys are all interested in Montessori, St. Kate's, great place. Yes, 100%. Extracurricular, right? Not being forced upon them. Yes?
Build their own world. They get to create whatever they want. They get to design it and create it, but they can also interact with other people who've created things. So they can share their world and share other people's worlds.
Right. You can build whatever you want with your Legos. My daughter doesn't play with her Legos anymore. And I'll tell you something, she doesn't play Minecraft by herself anymore. She plays with friends all the time, right? Scratch is the biggest MOOC in the world. There's thousands of scratchers, right? You can remix other people. They have communities. They have YouTube channels. It's mind-blowing how much content there is out there and how self-driven students are to learn about these things. That is something they're working really hard at, I can tell you, in these higher ed courses. How do you get that connection, right? How do you get that feeling of belonging in CS50 with 100,000 other people in the same course, right? This 1%, you know those kids. You know who those kids are, right? You could stick a textbook on a pylon on the road and they'd pass the course, right? What about the other 99%? What about the kids all over the world will get Harvard degrees for free, right? What about those kids? Why aren't they doing it, right? No connection. There's no connections. That's the reason. So what can we do, right? We're working really hard on this. This is what we are trying to do. Oh, yeah, I was going to tell you about this guy. Sean Michael Morris, digital critical pedagogy. So I don't want to get into the weeds of MOOCs and stuff. I can do that another time, just tell Sarah. But this guy, digital critical pedagogy, we've all, well, not all, some have taught through COVID, right? That really ramped up what it means to have critical pedagogy in a digital world, right? Until COVID, it was mostly like the edX guys that were like, how do we make this better? How do we make, how do we make it more enticing? All of a sudden, every single student in the world was in edX. And everybody was like, oh my God, this sucks, right? Like, we cannot translate pedagogy from the classroom to online, especially at younger ages, because they're so dependent on connection and being part of a community, right? Sitting at home in Zoom for a 6-year-old, even if all your friends are on Zoom with you, they know. Like, we can pretend in high school that it's a community, but they know it's not, right? So how do you change that? So this guy thinks really deeply for a long time about that kind of stuff, digital critical pedagogy. And his website is amazing. Like, just like the art, that's like, little blog posts and stuff that might take you 5-10 minutes to read, but really are like, if you're interested, right, I put in a link to what is connectivism, and then down here, situated learning, and there's lots of theory, and it's an online textbook basically, but like, what does it mean to have community-based learning, right? So if you're interested in more of that theoretical side, I have links in there for that. So here are some of the tools that I promised to talk about. I don't want to really spend too much time on this because I know you're not going to believe this, but I actually prefer doing the talking. You may have heard of these, probably because you have taught through COVID, right? I have other talks I give on tools, but this talk is much more about this side right here, especially this side. So Flip, it used to be called Flipgrid. It was developed at the U of M about a decade ago. You can post topics, kids post videos, you post videos. It's a private walled garden specifically designed for education. So it's really nice when you want to have, like, I use it in my classes for introduce yourself, right? 2-minute introduction, that kind of stuff. Tell me give me a 5-minute talk on blah, 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 whatever it is. So it's nice like that, and it's designed for education, FERPA compliant, integrates with Google Classroom and Canvas and everything else. Padlet, another great one. They're called walls, media walls. Can put text, graphics, videos, whatever. Again, walled garden, FERPA compliant, happy district. Top Hat is kind of like Reddit. Anybody ever heard of Reddit? A couple people. You know, you post things and you talk about them, right? Sort of like discussion, old sort of BBS kind of discussion-based, like, you know, a student posts, can you go over the difference between sensory memory and iconic memory? And then anybody can comment, and the teacher can moderate it. Again, designed for education, FERPA compliant, blah, blah, blah. Really happy. This is my favorite. How many people have heard of Discord before? Wow, that's actually really good. So about half. So Discord was originally designed as a way for gamers to chat with each other during games. In the most polite way, of course. As we all know, teenagers do. And what I found, I started using it in my classes about 6 years ago. Because I found the most disengaged students were on Discord. Before I started using it, I found that out. And I was like, wait a minute. Come on, critical thinking. Come on, critical pedagogy. What can I do with this, right? I can use this, right? I can build around this. I can figure out a way to bring those kids into the class if nothing else I'm doing is working, right? I promise you, I'm really not much of a lecturer. I'm really not much of a song and dance guy, right? I am a much more, here's a bunch of tools, make something cool, right? And a lot of students would kind of sit there like, I don't know what to do. Or, you know, you're all teachers, you know what the disengaged students are doing. But there's a lot of reasons that they're disengaged, right? And again, I don't want to go into, you know, the theories behind that, but having this back channel chat, essentially, allows students who don't feel that community in school to come in the back door. And maybe they still don't feel like they belong in school, but they feel like they belong in my class now. Right? As far as I'm concerned, that's a win, right? That's good enough. Right? Even if they don't do the work, if they feel like they belong in my classroom, I'll take that, right? That's more than, you know, they've done in my class last year. Right? So now they belong, right? They don't have to raise their hand and say, I have no idea what to do here. They just type it in the, maybe they type it in the chat to their friend. Maybe they type it in the chat to me because they don't want to know, they don't want other people to know they don't know, right? People who have a lot of anxiety, kids these days with their anxiety, right? Don't want to raise their hand, don't want to make a fool of themselves, right? They chat, you know they chat. This is native to them. They are digital natives, right? It doesn't feel like an official thing. Has anybody tried to use like Google Chats and stuff in classes? Has anybody tried? No? I tried. You can imagine about how well it went, right? Unless you assign a grade to it, it's crickets, right? They can get help from each other when they need it, right? Do they do their homework when their friends are around? Probably not, right? Especially if they don't get it done in your class, especially if they're not the gifted students that are done before you're done talking, right? They need help at night. They need help on the weekends, right? They can get it from each other if they're all forced to be in a Discord group together, right? They can choose who they get help from. They don't have to wait for you to come to their desk, right? I can choose when I want to be available. I don't have to be available on the weekend, right? I can say, hey, guess what? You can post your question in the class chat, right? I will give, actually what I did was I gave, little treats. I know you're not supposed to give food, but I give food, candy. To the most helpful person. Every time somebody said, thanks, Sparkle Bunny 99, whatever, I had this little counter that would automatically add 1. And at the end of every week, whoever had the highest score got to pick from, last year's Halloween candy. Right? The most helpful people. They don't have to know the most. And half the time they're like, they end up, I don't really know the answer to your question, but, try Googling this. Oh, thanks, Sparkle Bunny. Boom, they get a point. Community. Connections. That's what it's all about, right? And if I'm there, on the beach in Mexico, as I go every weekend, like all of you, I've seen you there, and I'm sitting there, with my Corona on the beach, and I do happen to log into Discord at 2 in the afternoon on a Sunday, and I do want to help some students, I can, but I don't have to, right? It's not forcing you to give up your free time, right? But if you're there and you want, or you're like, oh my God, I forgot to change the due date, blah, 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 I send a message to the class, boom, they get it, right? And just before, to anticipate some of the questions, there is a complete record of all the chats, except for the direct messages. So if students agree to direct message each other, that's where it can be a problem. But students can always take a screenshot and send it to you and say, hey, this person sent me something inappropriate. Fine-grained permissions. You can say students cannot post pictures, for example, if you're dealing with 7th grade boys. Don't know why I picked that out of thin air. And you can have them, like in the Rochester Computer Club, force them to verify their email and have their real name, right? So it's not Sparkle Bunny 99, it's John Bartus, right? And that really builds community, in my experience. There is also Slack. Probably a lot of people have heard about Slack. I use it in my work environment. A lot of people use it in their work environment. It seems sort of de rigueur these days. No kids are using it, right? And in my experience, I tried it once, and it was like crickets. It was worthless. The biggest thing was, this right here, right? I didn't have to force these kids to do anything. They're already there. And the gifted kids, the straight A kids will install anything you ask them to. So. All right, so what about privacy and student data? Right, I'm just gonna blanket statement, if it's not made for schools, be careful, right? So the 3 on the left, right, were made for schools, right? You can read the fine print if you want, but they're used by millions of students. Discord is not yet. I'm hoping to work with them to change that. But right now, they are not FERPA compliant, so you have to be 13 years old to use it, and they do log data and things like that. So the onus is on you to make sure it's okay to use if you want to use it in your class, right? RPS has approved it, shockingly enough. So if you work in Rochester, you can use it. I use it for computer clubs and then have my students join the computer club so that they can ask for help from friends in the computer club. Tips, use real names, moderate heavily, and then if you're going to use it in a classroom, that is a perfect opportunity to start talking about digital citizenship. Right? What does it mean to be a good citizen, right? I as a computer science teacher for years and cybersecurity teacher for years, I believe in the goodness of humans. I believe that you should teach students how to use things properly, not try and wall off every possible dangerous thing that they might ever see for the rest of their life, right? Let's be honest, they've seen it all by now. I mean, maybe not in kindergarten, but seriously, by the time in high school, they have seen stranger things than you would ever want to see, right? So let's teach them how to deal with that psychologically, emotionally, in a community, right? What does it mean to be a good citizen, right? It's harder to be a good citizen online than in a room full of people. We all know that, right? They don't really know that yet, and they don't have frontal lobes, certainly not 7th grade boys. I've seen them fall out while they're walking. So let's help them with that. All right, I was expecting to have a little more time to play. But this is the Rochester Computer Discord server, and I will bring it up here. So here it is. This is my view, because I'm an administrator. And can I make this bigger? Nope. Should have thought of this in advance. Preferences. Well, we only have a couple. Oh, here we go. Appearance. Font scaling. Let's try this. There we go. Now you can see things. All right. So over here on the left of the screen, well, on the very left, you'll see all the servers, most of them that I run for various groups and things like that. Here are all the channels in the Rochester Computer Club server. So we have a lot of things like the rules. If you've signed up, you've seen those. You have to agree to them before you can post anything. For the mentor, we have a lot of people from IBM, Mayo, other college professors I know who help mentor. Announcements, obviously, discussions. We have programming competitions. We have hardware. We have 3D printing, modeling, Unity and Blender, game design, cybersecurity, artificial intelligence and machine learning. This is student content, right? These are students. They're learning. I'm not even teaching them, and they're learning. This is community. These are real connections, right? So here are the bot commands, and a lot of you have joined. Ben didn't accept the rules. I'm going to make him a member anyway. It's a little risky. I don't know who Ben is. Sounds like a sketchy name. Oh, I know Rich. So you can see I can add Rich as muted because I know the types of things he posts. But I will make him, he works at Mayo, and he's a mentor. And in other, and you can set all these rules up how if you want to make your own server. You can copy my server. I'm happy to, we only have a minute left, so I can't do that. Probably don't want to go in there. Books and movies? Seriously? Books and movies? In December. And yeah, oh, here's the SSE discussion. Oh man, I even pinned some of the students and I'm like, you guys got to help me out here. Go into the SSE discussion and talk about what you think critical thinking is. Yeah, I tried. Kids these days, just no respect, I tell you. Anyway, well, I hope you will all join anyway, even if you just want to check it out. Send me a message, just click on my name, and you can send me a message and just say, hey, I am Bill Johnson, and I was at your, presentation on Wednesday. Is it Wednesday? Wednesday. I teach at school, and I'll just make sure you have all the access. Because I would love for you to break some of those barriers and build some connections in community with your students. Thank you.